Our mission statement at KBLA Talk 1580 is simple: to create an inclusive platform that promotes civil discourse through honest dialogue and encourages personal growth among our listeners so they can become the active agents of change. Our vision is to establish ourselves as the premier radio network with relevant programming across the beloved community, connecting people through shared experiences and collective power for lasting impact beyond these challenging times.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm just happy to see you and me back in stride again. Let me first invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and get Twitter updates at Tavis Smiley. Should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, check out the Tavis Smiley podcast wherever you get your podcasts and listen at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, An American Family, the Shakurs and the Nation They Created. Author Santee Elijah Holly goes beyond the well-known figures Assata and Tupac Shakur and reveals the greater narrative of the Shakur family tree, which has roots that reach deep, deep into the history of the underground fight for freedom. When Black Liberation is the Family Business, with author Santee Elijah Holly, who joins us today in hour two. In our third hour, two conversations. Up first, today is International Chess Day, and we will talk with one of the three Black grandmasters in the world. You heard me right. Out of 1,700 grandmasters around the globe, there are only three Black grandmasters on the planet. One of those three is Grandmaster Pontus Carlson, who joins us today at the top of hour three. On the B side of hour three, a conversation with the only African-American physician specializing in facial plastic surgery, prominent surgeon Dr. Carl Truesdale, who has a new venture he'll unveil for us on the backside of hour three. We'll commence today's program in a moment talking politics with the chief national political affairs analyst and host of A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580 here in L.A., Dr. Nicola Corte, when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Good thing we've got 3 hours.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
The Los Angeles Urban League helps African American and others in underserved communities achieve true social parity, economic self-reliance, and civil rights. For over 100 years, Los Angeles Urban League has ensured our communities have access to careers with living wages, opportunities to start and grow businesses, and clear pathways to personal and professional growth. Programs like BizCamp, Construction Career Academy, Bob Business Ready, and B-Warp. The Black Wealth Attainment and Retention Program are examples of the ongoing events designed to make our centennial mission to rebuild Black Wall Street right here in LA a reality. To sign up for our newsletter or to support the Los Angeles Urban League with your time, talent, and donations, visit laul.org. That's laul.org. The Los Angeles Urban League is a proud sponsor of Urban Family Focus, Saturdays at 7 a.m. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20.
So am I, because I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine. It can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
Ew, gotta get rid of this old Backstreet Boys t-shirt.
Tell me why.
Because it stinks, boys.
Tell me why.
I've washed it so many times, but the odor won't come out.
Tell me why.
No, you tell me why I can't get rid of this odor.
Have you tried new Downy Rinse and Refresh? It doesn't just cover up odors, it helps remove them.
Wow, it worked, guys.
Yeah.
Downy Rinse and Refresh removes more odor in one wash than the leading value detergent in 3 washes. Find it wherever you buy laundry products.
Interrogating your assumptions and expanding your inventory of ideas. Let's get back to Tavis Smiley on KBLA Talk 1580.
Pleased to be joined today in this first hour by the Chief National Political Affairs Analyst and the host of A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580 here in LA, Dr. Nicola Corte. Nicola, how are you today, sir?
I'm well, Tavis. How are you?
If I complained, I'd be an ingrate. You know me. I'm delighted to be here and delighted to have you on today. Lots to talk about in this first hour. I think I want to do this first, in part because it seems that everybody else is talking about it. I had to catch up on it. I am amazed oftentimes of the things that people tap into, and the things that matter so little to me. And I think it's in part because as I get older, I try to focus on things that really, really impact my life. I'm not sure this does, and yet everybody seems to be talking about it. It is the curious case of Carlee Russell. And you may know more about this than I do, so why don't you tell me why everybody's talking about this?
Well, everybody's talking about this because Carlee Russell appeared to fake her disappearance. And, folks have gotten, riled up, and people have tapped in to this case of this young woman, this 25-year-old woman who was reported missing. And, we can't underscore enough the epidemic of black women across the country that oftentimes go missing and without, law enforcement's full force. More often than not, particularly compared to their white counterparts. And so I think in that context, I think that's part of the reason why so many people have been sort of tapping into this story. But it is increasingly seeming as if she faked it. And not only is that really disappointing, but it pulls focus from the black women and girls across the country that go missing in large numbers all the time. Tavis, when I anchored Fox Soul's Black Report, we began to do a recurring segment around the work of the Black and Missing Foundation. It's a foundation that was set up to advance policy change and to really sort of raise the profile of black women and girls who are missing across the country. So often they're categorized as runaways and not as missing. And as you know, those initial days after anybody is reported missing are critical in terms of marshaling resources in an effort to find them in right state of mind and health.
So here's what we know. On July 13th, last Thursday, Nicola gave you some of this. I'm going to give you a bit more detail. Carlee Russell vanished after calling 911 and telling a dispatcher that she stopped along I-459 in Alabama on her way home from work after seeing a toddler walking by himself in a diaper along the highway. When police arrived on the scene, they found the 25-year-old's car still running with her belongings inside, but she was nowhere to be found. A statewide search yielded no results for more than 48 hours. Then on Saturday night, so again, this happens last Thursday, on Saturday, she reappears back at her parents' house in Hoover, Alabama, and she tells her family that she was kidnapped at a news conference. Police Chief Nick Durzis said the investigation continues, but authorities do not believe there is a threat to the community, which is, by the way, just south of Birmingham. The chief told reporters no one had reported a missing child, and investigators had found no evidence of one. They also revealed that when they found Carlee Russell's phone, they discovered web searches that included, do you have to pay for an Amber Alert, and how to take money from a register without being caught. The police chief said searches for bus tickets from Birmingham to Nashville and for the movie Taken, about an abduction, were also in the history on Russell's phone. So it's not just that this seems to have been faked. The more you dig into this, the more you realize that she was planning and plotting this. And I hear your point. I don't really know how to read this. That someone would go through all of this for the sake of faking an abduction. To your point, knowing that there are literally black women who really are missing, and that this could have absolutely no good outcome for those sisters who have gone missing for months and years in some cases, who have yet to be found.
That's right. I mean, and it also underscores perhaps the mental health crisis that exists in our communities. Who would do such a thing? She's certainly not the only one, but we have been hearing stories like this increasingly, of even some very high-profile individuals, who, have faked abductions, who have faked hate crimes. I'm thinking of, the Jussie Smollett situation in Chicago, right? And so, it's important that folks get the support that they need. Why would somebody do such a thing? I'm unclear why, but I am clear that this really is an issue for black women and girls across the country, and that's part of my disappointment, Tavis. I mean, do you have to do all this? You have to orchestrate all this for some kind of attention? Yeah. And if so, what's that about? Well,
she's 25. You want to go there?
Let's go there.
You want to go there? She's 25, and she's a part of a generation where attention matters. It's as simple as likes when you post. I mean, think of all the kids who get depressed and despondent because they aren't getting likes on their post. Kids who get bullied online and end up oftentimes committing suicide because that kind of peer pressure matters to them. So the fact that at the age of 25, she was desperate for that kind of attention, on the one hand, doesn't so much surprise me. What does surprise me, to your invocation of Jussie Smollett into this conversation, or as Dave Chappelle called him, Juicy Smollett. That was funny when Chappelle went there. The case wasn't funny, but Chappelle's framing of it was funny. At 25, she had to be fully aware of that Jussie Smollett case. So if you're aware of that, why do you think that you can get away with what he didn't get away with?
Well, she didn't Google Jussie Smollett case.
I guess not.
And so,
apparently not.
Maybe she knew at least that much. But this is a disturbing situation. I remember watching the interview that her parents did with a reporter down in Alabama, and there was something about that interview that just was misfiring with me. There was something about the tone of her mom and the stoicism of her father that made me feel like maybe there was more that they knew that they weren't sharing. And so, it's a shame, because we saw in this case, the law enforcement in Alabama actually seemed to marshal resources pretty quickly and took this case pretty seriously. And so I think a lot of folks would think, of all places, I'm not sure if you'd put Alabama near the top of your list of folks that would be marshaling resources as quickly as possible to find, this black woman who was reported missing. And so, shout out. Credit where credit's due. Shout out to the law enforcement in Alabama for taking this seriously. And I hope, Tavis, that not just in Alabama, but in places across the country, that law enforcement doesn't give a second thought when there are cases of black women and girls that are reported missing in light of this case.
Yep. Two other things in that regard. One, what's really troubling about this for me, beyond what we've already discussed, is that this 25-year-old Carlee Russell apparently gave no thought to the police resources, the taxpayer money that would be spent trying to follow up on this fake abduction. And people don't process that in the beginning. And clearly she didn't process the fact that somebody could go through her phone. You raised the issue earlier of mental health. I mean, that is a serious issue here. Because, I mean, there's no way you could be, dumb enough, stupid enough to think that they weren't at some point going to go through your phone. I mean, it's just not processing all of this. It speaks to me. It suggests to me that there's not just a level of mental health here, but a level of desperation that it's tragic to sort of wrap your brain around. The other thing that I thought about when I first heard this story, again, I had not been tracking or following this, and I've got producers around me saying everybody's talking about this, and maybe we ought to chime in on it for a few minutes. I'm like, okay, what's the story? And so they kind of downloaded me on it, and so here we are talking about it for a few minutes at the start of this hour. But when my producers were telling me about it, the first thing I thought about, and I don't know that I feel good or bad about confessing this, and I'm going to check your temperature when I tell you what I was thinking. And I'm looking at you to see if you can guess what I was thinking when I first heard about this story. You can't figure it out. You can't guess. First thing that came to mind when I heard this story was Tawana Brawley.
Oh, really?
Now, for many people, the jury is still out on whether all those years ago Tawana Brawley did in fact fake this abduction, or whether or not it really happened. To this day, the Reverend Al Sharpton still maintains that it happened. He does not want to acknowledge that he was bamboozled, run amok, led astray. But my mind went back to that moment because it was, that is the most high-profile case of somebody allegedly faking their abduction that I could think of. And Tawana Brawley didn't come to your mind when you heard about this story?
No. Well, who came to my mind was Jussie.
Jussie Smollett, yeah. Yeah, and you're right. He's the most high profile of, actor, male, but female.
Yeah.
Tawana Brawley came to mind for me. Which leads me to ask, since we're going there, let's just go there. Yeah. Let's go all the way there. What do you make of the fact, just connecting dots here, what do you make of the fact that Al Sharpton has seemed to move past that, to finally sort of put that in his rear view? For so long in New York, they called him Al Charlatan, not Al Sharpton, Al Charlatan. And even if you don't believe Tawana Brawley, that was something that Al Sharpton essentially got pulled into. They came to him to be the spokesperson, the advocate for this young girl, Tawana Brawley. So I've always sort of felt for Al in the sense he got pulled into it. But Al being Al, he went so hard on this. And even as the police and the investigators kept saying, not so much here, he kept his foot on the accelerator. And it's fascinating for me to see how he has been able to sort of rebound from that with Jesse Jackson aging, and now with Parkinson's. It's been that way for quite some time. And, of course, Jesse, that self-inflicted wound, making that comment about Barack Obama, I want to just cut his blank off. The Obama administration wanted nothing to do with Jesse for those 8 years and did not have anything to do with him. So that pushes Al to the forefront. So Al Sharpton, if I can put this in air quotes, and this is air quotes, ladies and gentlemen, Al Sharpton becomes sort of the, titular head of black leadership. He's the one whose face and name we see all the time. He's the one out front. He's the one at the White House all the time during the Obama era. And for a long time, people would not let him forget about this Tawana Brawley case. Since we're talking about Carlee Russell, they wouldn't let Al forget about that. And yet, in spite of all of that, he has sort of moved past that. Is seen in the way that he's seen, been on the cover of Time Magazine and Newsweek, and has written books and has a TV show, as you well know now, for some years on MSNBC. What do you make of the sort of reinvention, if you will? Lost a lot of weight. What do you make of the reinvention of Al Sharpton and the way he was able to move past that fakery, if you will, in the Tawana Brawley case?
Well, I think in summation, I think of something that one of the ancestors, Maya Angelou, used to say, when you know better, do better, right? And I think the Al Sharpton of today knows a whole lot better than the Al Sharpton, when he was much younger. And I think for folks that are on the front lines of fighting for change, on the front lines of fighting for justice, when you are surrounded by, overwhelmed sometimes by the sea of injustice that you see inflicted upon your people. I think sometimes there's a knee-jerk reaction, when we learn about these stories, when we read about these stories, where we think, oh, here's another case, here's another case. I mean, think about it, in terms of, police involved misconduct. Right? How many stories do we report on day over day, week over week, where we see another black man, that suffers at the hands of a police officer. And, we're told, well, wait a minute, let the facts come in, don't prejudge it, and oftentimes we reach the same conclusion, but not all the time. But not all the time. And I think this is a case where I think there are some that had a knee-jerk reaction and have discovered, based on the facts that we know today, that may not be true. That conclusion that we drew, that connection, that correlation that we drew, may not have been correct. I think the same may have been true with the Tawana Brawley case, but we must continue to fight. Even though this case in Alabama today appears to be set up by the alleged victim, it shouldn't stop us from being vigilant and for fighting for justice for black women and girls who, again, when they're missing, when it comes to Amber Alerts, we don't get Amber Alerts at the same rate as white women. When it comes to marshaling the resources of law enforcement, we don't see that happening at the same rate for black women, right? And so, it's important that we learn from these teachable moments, but we don't allow these teachable moments to draw us in a state of paralysis. And I think that's a part of the transformation that we've seen over the years of Al Sharpton. He has become, wiser in his older years, to the point where he's been able to counsel, some of the young leaders of the Black Lives Matter movement and other movements for racial justice, not as, do as I say, but hey, learn from, some of the mistakes that I've made and some of the growth opportunities I've encountered.
Yeah. What does it say to you? Just watching my clock here. We got a few minutes before we have to move forward here. What does it say to you, or how would you respond to people who will say, and I've seen some online who have said, once I was made aware of the story, I dug a little deeper, of course, in preparation for our conversation today. And I find that there are people who say that this just underscores the victimization mindset that black folk have. That the minute they hear a story like this, they just automatically go in. And only because the story started to unravel so quickly, Al Sharpton may not have had time to get to Alabama because the story started to unravel so quickly. But if this story hadn't unraveled so quickly, again, maybe given what happened to him with the Tawana Brawley case, he might not have moved so swiftly. Who knows? But at some point, who knows? Al may have been in Alabama for all we know. But how do you respond to folk who say that the fact that black folk were so quick and are so quick to believe these stories when they happen, although indeed they do happen, suggests some sort of victimization mindset that is pervasive in our community?
I would flip it. I don't think we have any more of a victimization mindset than any other community. I think, if anything, we have a survivor mindset. We have a mindset of overcoming. We have a mindset that's grounded in resilience. We know from the time that we're little kids that black folks have to work twice as hard for half as much. Shouldn't be that way, but that is too often the case. And not only is it the case when we're seeking opportunity, but it's also the case that when we're seeking help, from law enforcement, there are hurdles that we have to jump in order to be believed, in order, to have our humanity viewed in the same way, as our white counterparts and others. And so, I think there are some people that will seize upon this. I hope all of us can learn from this. But make no mistake about it, Tavis. The challenges that we see in this country around marshaling resources, particularly for black women and girls who go missing, that is nothing to snuff at. This is a significant challenge in our country. And we shouldn't allow this case in Alabama to pull focus from the black women and girls that are missing. that right now don't enjoy the full force of law enforcement in bringing them home safe and sound.
Yeah, she went as far, now talking about Carlee Russell again, went as far as to tell investigators that she'd been forced into a car and then an 18-wheeler before she escaped, only to be abducted and put in a car again. Told them she was held in a house, put in another car before she escaped and ran home through the woods. When they found her on Saturday night, she had a small injury on her lip, a tear in her shirt, and $107 in cash in her sock. So this was, this is sad in many ways, but maybe she ought to be a screenwriter because to make up stuff like that. Of course, right now she wouldn't get paid.
Yeah, not right now. Right now, not during the strike.
Yeah, not during the strike. But it's sad and would be laughable if it weren't so serious, and it is so serious to the point that Nicordelai Quartey has made a number of times in this conversation. Anyway, there you have it. What we know today about this curious case of one Carlee Russell. There's a great deal more to talk about with Dr. Nicordelai Quartey when we come forward. All eyes right now on Washington, specifically a grand jury in Washington, amid signs of this third Trump indictment. It's just a matter of time. We are told before this indictment drops, and so we will talk about that when we come forward. And interestingly, we are told that they are looking to use an old civil rights statute to indict President Trump. An old civil rights statute. What's that about? We will unpack that. A great deal more to talk about when we come forward. You are listening to The Tavis Smiley Show. Stay with us.
Be sure to like and follow Tavis Smiley at The Real Tavis Smiley and get Twitter updates at Tavis Smiley. The conversation continues when we come forward.
We're glad you could join us. I'm Mike Moore. Now, here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Maryland congressional leaders say more federal resources are being sent to Baltimore to help the city bring down its crime rate. Thanks to increased funding from the Justice Department, they say Baltimore will soon receive more U.S. attorneys, DEA agents, and FBI agents. Plus, Congressman African-American Kwesi Mpume says he has discussed with Acting Police Commissioner Richard Worley the need for more police officers in Baltimore. The number of initial unemployment claims are down. The Department of Labor says the number dropped to 228,000 for the week ending July 15th. That's down from 237,000 jobless claims in the previous week, and it's a 2-month low, suggesting there's still a strong demand for workers. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Now your ideas don't have to wait. Dell Technologies and Intel are pushing what technology can do, so great ideas can happen right now. Find out how to bring your ideas to life at Dell.com. Welcome to now.
Is this the tether? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
More health issues for first-year Colorado football coach Deion Sanders. Deion will have surgery this morning to remove blood clots in his right leg. He will miss the Pac-12 Conference Media Day Friday in Las Vegas. Deion had surgery on June 22nd to remove blood clots in his left leg. Deion posted on Instagram yesterday that he will be ready to coach his new team when preseason camp starts next month. The New York Jets are the first NFL team to open training camp. They hit the field yesterday in Florham Park, New Jersey. The Chargers and Rams open up camp on Tuesday. Dodgers pitcher Julio Urias did not have a good day in Baltimore yesterday. Urias gave up a career-high 8 runs in 5 innings. Before the game, LSU women's basketball star Angel Reese, a Baltimore native, threw out the first pitch. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. What's up?
I'm tired of feeling so bloated.
That used to be me. Then I got this.
Align Bloating Relief plus food digestion. A probiotic, right?
Yeah, it works naturally with your gut to help soothe occasional bloating and gas. Plus, it has vitamin B12 to aid digestion by helping convert food to cellular energy. 2 benefits, 1 capsule.
Align Bloating Relief plus food digestion from the #1 doctor-recommended probiotic brand. Learn more at alignprobiotics.com.
Did you know that feeling sluggish or weighed down could be signs that your digestive system isn't working at its best? But taking Metamucil every day can help. Metamucil supports your daily digestive health using a special plant-based fiber called psyllium. Psyllium works by forming a gel in your digestive system to trap and remove the waste that weighs you down. Metamucil's gelling action also helps to promote heart health and slows down sugar absorption to promote healthy blood sugar levels. Start feeling lighter and more energetic by taking Metamucil every day.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminding you that we keep us safe. The Center for the Pacific Asian Family was founded to help address domestic violence and sexual assault in the Asian and the Pacific Islander communities. The Center for the Pacific Asian Family's mission is to build healthy and safe communities by addressing the root causes and consequences of family violence and violence against women. They are committed to meeting the specific cultural and language needs of the Asian and Pacific Islander women and their families. CPAF's vision is of an Asian and Pacific Islander community that embraces healthy relationships and works in partnership with other communities to eradicate all forms of violence. To access services, volunteer, or for more info, visit nurturingchange.org. At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe everyone deserves to be safe. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, your sports connection here at KBLA Talk 1580. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough every Saturday night at 7 for Out of Bounds, the show that brings some flavor to the world of sports for 60 minutes. We take you beyond the scores and press conferences. We give you our point of view, the way black folks see what's going down. You can join the conversation and give us your analysis at 1-800-920-1580. Out of Bounds every Saturday night at 7 on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
You like the style, though.
Discover credit cards automatically double all the cash back you earn at the end of your first year. Which means... Wait, hold up. Question for the audio engineer.
Go ahead.
Did I read that right? Discover automatically doubles all your cash back?
Yeah, that's what the script says.
So if I get a Discover card right now, I can earn twice the cash back.
Apparently. Wait! Unlimited first-year cash back match. Only from Discover. See terms and learn more at discover.com/match.
We're not for everybody, but we're for everybody. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
This is Tavis Smiley. I am your host, Tavis Smiley. Our guest in this hour is Dr. Nee Quarterly-Corte, who is the Chief Political Affairs Analyst and host of A More Perfect Union for KBLA Talk 1580 here in Los Angeles. Pleased to be joined by him in this hour as we talk politics. Just spent some time talking about this curious case of Carlee Russell. You made one comment to me during the break about what you saw when you watched her parents. We share that again because I want to probe that just for a quick second here.
Well, so I shared that as I was watching her parents, I thought somebody's not leveling with the reporter. Mm-hmm. The mom was doing most of the talking. The dad appeared to be very stoic and very controlled. And it felt like they weren't saying something, right? And so, look, I don't want to, talk about anything that may not be there, but I'm just saying my gut instinct as a journalist said, there's more there. There's something that they're not saying.
What happens if we find out that her parents were in on this? I'm just speculating. I know nothing about this case.
I mean, I think it makes matters worse. It makes matters worse, and I think it may open them up to criminal prosecution.
Oh, indeed.
It may open them up to civil suits. I mean, as you mentioned earlier, it costs money to marshal the resources of law enforcement and emergency response. And so in a state like Alabama, might they pass those costs on to this family, if not for anything, to make an example so that other people don't do it?
Yeah. I hope we don't find that out. Yeah, the fact that she was involved in it is bad enough. I hope that we don't find out that her parents were involved. I digress, and we move forward. All eyes on Washington and this grand jury amid signs that this third Trump indictment is imminent. Nicola, what do you make of this? This is the third indictment of Donald Trump, and we're still not done yet. There'll be maybe one or two more, but here we are now up to indictment number 3, and his poll numbers are not slipping at all.
I mean, I think we really should say third and counting.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, my goodness, he is. We need to call the Guinness Book because I don't think a former president
has any former president of any country been indicted 3 times.
Any
country, yeah.
Right? Yes. Federal prosecutors investigating Donald Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election results have evidence to charge the former president with 3 crimes, including Section 241 of the U.S. Legal Code that makes it unlawful to conspire to violate civil rights. This is according to people that are familiar with the matter. Mm-hmm. The target letter to Trump identified a previously unconsidered third charge, that is Section 241 of Title 18 of the U.S. Code, which makes it unlawful to conspire to threaten or intimidate a person in the free exercise of any right or privilege under the Constitution or laws of the United States. Now, you might be wondering, well, where did this come from? The statute enacted to protect the civil rights of black voters targeted by white supremacy groups after the U.S. Civil War is unusual because it is typically used by prosecutors and law enforcement misconduct and hate crimes prosecutions, though its use has expanded in recent years. And so what the potential charge means for Trump, it's unclear, but it is another example that prosecutors, are looking at these set of circumstances through a 3-dimensional lens. Mm-hmm. What happened on January 6th was an assault on our democracy, full stop. And so you're seeing law enforcement really trying to put the full weight of the laws in place to hold the former president accountable. And so this is the potential third indictment and counting. And just think about this for a second, Tavis. Mm-hmm. The fact that we're already at almost the third indictment, right? The first one wasn't enough. The second one wasn't enough. Very similarly, the first impeachment wasn't enough. And then there was a second impeachment. And so at some point we've got to ask ourselves, if we're a nation of laws and if we truly believe that no one, not even a former president, is above the law, then why has it taken so long? Why has it taken so long for us to make that declaration to one another and to make that declaration to democracies around the world? Tavis, when I was in Zambia in the spring on assignment with Vice President Harris, who was on an Africa tour, the first Trump indictment came down when we were in Zambia. And one of my colleagues from the Washington Journal, from the Washington Post, Annie Linsky, I'm sorry, the Wall Street Journal, Annie Linsky from the Wall Street Journal, mm-hmm. She asked Vice President Harris and the president of Zambia to comment on this. And the president of Zambia, who was also the focus and the victim of a trumped up, pun intended, political prosecution, who was put in jail, responded to that question. You know what he said? Mm. He said, let's take the person, referring to Donald Trump, let's take the person out of it, right? This is about the rule of law. And America better pay attention to how democracies younger than the United States around the world are paying attention to whether or not are we truly a nation that respects the rule of law, where no one is above the law, or not. And if we allow Donald Trump to just, go about his business and we say, well, water under the bridge, what signal does that send to democracies around the world?
I was saying to somebody last night, and I'm sort of echoing the point you made a moment ago, that it's taken all of this and we still ain't got Donald Trump yet. All of this, and he's still leading in the polls. All of this, he is still the presumptive nominee. But if you're a Negro, if you're Jamal or Letitia, and you get caught with a dime bag, or if you're Philando Castile and your tail light is out, or if you're brother, sister X and your license plate is expired, you don't just get held accountable. You don't just get pulled over. You may end up dead as a result of that. And so this comparison, this contrast between how little it takes, and oftentimes, as we know, brothers are getting out of prison for being wrongfully incarcerated. But think about how little it takes to hem up a black man or a black woman, and how much it's taken to get Donald Trump, who we still don't have as yet. Just think about that frame for a second. The second thing I thought about when you were talking is a conversation we had on this program some weeks ago about these slavery-era laws that judges are using today to justify rulings and decisions that aren't really in our best interest, but they're going all the way back to slavery-era laws that are still on the books to hem us up in 2023, because those laws have not been taken off the books. And then you think about, thirdly, the irony, and I want to ask you, what is the irony that Donald Trump, given all that he has done, would get jacked up over a civil rights era law? If that ain't irony, I mean, you couldn't write this stuff. That's like Shakespearean, right? That Donald Trump would get hemmed up over a civil rights era law. Like, did that irony? Did the irony hit you? Because it certainly hit me.
I mean, absolutely, but it's also no surprise, because so many folks in the Republican Party, aren't there on the front lines defending civil rights. Yeah. They're not about carving out any carve-outs to the filibuster to protect and preserve, dare I say, advance our civil rights. I mean, the fact that, this statute, again, that was enacted to protect the civil rights of black voters that were targeted by white supremacy groups after the U.S. Civil War, I feel almost as if prosecutors are telegraphing, not just to Donald Trump, but they're telegraphing to we the people. We the people, look where we're at. Sit with this moment. Look where we're at. They have found a law on the books that dates back to the Civil War era. And so for people that want to shrug their shoulders and act like what's happening is normal, for the people out there that want to act like, nothing to see here, just the charges alone, I think, underscore the gravity of the moment we find ourselves in.
And even the rare Trump rivals who have openly criticized the ex-president are holding their tongue on this. When we come forward, I want to talk to Dr. Nicola-Corte about how he reads that even at indictment number 3, Ron DeSantis, Chris Christie, and others running against him, Nikki Haley running against him for the nomination, are still pretty quiet, pretty tight-lipped about this. We'll get his take on that, and a great deal more to talk about, including these third-party candidates. Yesterday on this program, Marianne Williamson was in studio. Cornel West was here just a week or so ago. I want to get Dr. Nicola-Corte's take on what these opponents of the president running for the Democratic nomination mean for his reelection campaign. Cornel West, again, Green Party candidate, third party, what that means. But it's rare that a sitting president is met with this much headwind before he gets renominated. We'll talk about that in a great deal more when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
The family of Keenan Anderson is suing the city of Los Angeles for $100 million. Maisha Cairo here with your K-Black Minute News, brought to you by CaliforniaBlackMedia.org. Keenan Anderson, a high school English teacher that was visiting Los Angeles from Washington, D.C., was tragically killed at the hands of the Los Angeles Police Department in January of this year. His family, alongside civil rights and personal injury attorney Benjamin Crump and Carl Douglas, have announced a $100 million lawsuit
against the city of Los Angeles. Crump and Douglas are representing Keenan Anderson's son, Sincere Anderson, and his mother, Gabrielle Hansel. The family is suing for civil rights violations, assault and battery, false imprisonment, and negligence on the part of the LAPD officers. The family of Keenan Anderson and attorneys Crump and Douglas want it to be known that this is only part of a systemic issue within the fabric of police departments everywhere.
For adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy, now there's Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieve 90% clear skin at 4 months, and Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Nothing in me go hand in hand. Nothing on my skin, that's my new place. Nothing is everyday.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
With Skyrizi, you could achieve 90% clearer skin. Ask your doctor about the #1 dermatologist prescribed biologic in psoriasis and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Have you heard about Lendistry? Lendistry is a national black-led small business lender that is headquartered right here in LA. Once you've started your business, Lendistry provides flexible financing options starting at $50,000 to help you access the affordable capital needed to grow. Whether financing is needed to increase working capital, acquire a business, purchase inventory and equipment, or refinance debt, Lendistry has a solution for you. Lending products range from traditional business term loans and non-revolving lines of credit to SBA 7A loans and commercial real estate financing. Lendistry's pre-application process is simple and does not impact your credit score. Visit lendistry.com/KBLA to learn more and to get started with an application right from the website.
Let's unpack a little bit more with Tavis Smiley. The conversation continues right now.
Nicola Corte, the silence of these persons running against Donald Trump for the GOP nomination is profound.
It is. It's very profound. I mean, you would think that the former president had a file on each and every one of them. You know,
maybe he does.
Keeping them in line.
He did take documents. He was the president.
Well, you know, and Herbert Hoover was about that life. That wasn't that long ago. Yeah. And so, you know, it's quite possible. But, you know, it's interesting that you're not seeing really a contest of ideas around how to move the country forward, right? And I think it's important that folks are attentive, you know, to how the Republican Party is really peddling in grievance politics. I think the only candidate that really seems to be injecting a great deal of optimism into their campaign thus far is Senator Tim Scott. You know, and it seems as if Republicans may be rewarding that sort of optimism with their dollars. He is only second, as you mentioned, only second to Donald Trump in terms of fundraising reporting this last quarter, off by about $1 million, right? And so
Trump has 22 on hand, and Tim Scott has 21 on hand, which I predicted. I hate to say I'm right, but I was right. I told everybody, don't sleep on Tim Scott, at least early on, because these Republicans will support him, if for no other reason, early on, to point out that they are not racist. They can support a black man. Now, I suspect he'll fade later on, but let me just probe that for a second. What happens if I'm wrong about the latter? What if he doesn't fade later on? What if Tim Scott ends up being picked by Donald Trump as his running mate? Then you'd have something you'd never had. We've never seen this country before. 2 black folk running against each other on the ticket as vice president. I don't know that Tim Scott would even accept that, but if he did, what would that mean?
I think that could be one of the best things that could happen to the former president in his seeking a second term in office. You know,
one of the best things?
I think it's one of the best things that could happen
for Biden.
No, for Donald Trump.
For Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I think it's one of the best things that could happen for Donald
Trump.
Gotcha.
Gotcha.
Because, it allows him to really turn the page. It allows him to sort of refresh his brand, if you will, among Republicans. I think Democrats, are unmoved by any of this. But I think for Republicans, it gives them a reason to be hopeful that maybe another term with Donald Trump could be different. And also keep in mind that Tim Scott's personal story, his personal narrative, is quite compelling.
Hold that thought. We'll talk about his personal narrative when we come forward. And I also want to ask the penultimate question in my mind right now, which is whether or not if Tim Scott ends up being Donald Trump's running mate, he's doing better than anybody right now, whether or not that might siphon off black votes. Are we back to that conversation about black men voting for the other? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Maisha Cairo here for KBLA Talk 1580. We're live in Los Angeles at JP Morgan Chase's Advancing Black Wealth Tour. And I'm speaking to some of the attendees today to see why it was so important for them to be here.
Yeah, this is Lathan and Tyler. Main reason that's very important for me to be here is just to leave a legacy for my kids. Black wealth, generational wealth is what we need in our community. Oh, Chase, someone has to take the lead. They're showing, big business like Chase cares, and they're putting their money where their mouth is at. So it's good to see, big institution like Chase, giving a lifting hand, to the community, and you got to respect that. It makes me want to bank with Chase, and give them another look. If I go to another institution, I actually see what Chase is doing for the community.
That's right, Chase is doing their part to help advance black wealth. For more money support, tune in every day from 12 to 2 to KBLA Talk 1580's Midday Money Chain, right here.
Mom's early Alzheimer's diagnosis was hard to take.
And when I left the oven on, we decided together that it was time to see a doctor and make a plan.
Early detection gave us more time to seek out information and support as a family.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. For more information, visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
The Venture X card from Capital One gives you premium travel benefits, perfect for seeing Taylor Swift The Eras Tour, presented by Capital One. Oh, I do love her. Earn 5 times miles on flights and 10 times miles on hotels through Capital One Travel.
Enjoy your stay in Suite 13.
Whoa, 13? That's Taylor's lucky number. The Venture X card from Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
If this were a Reese's TV ad, you'd be staring at a Reese's peanut butter cup. And sure, my voice is peanut buttery smooth, but still, you need to see the peanut butter cups, right? No? I can really just say Reese's and you'll go get some? Okay, Reese's. 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 Really working, actually. Reese's. Reese's. I'm on to something. Reese's. Reese's. Reese's.
Conversations that matter. You're listening to Tavis Smiley on KBLA Talk 1580.
You quote Laquette, you were talking about the impressive nature of Tim Scott's personal narrative.
He has an incredible personal narrative. You can't take that away from him. Now, his voting record is still awfully Trumpy. He is a Republican, and so he has a certain worldview. But I think there are a number of folks that will give him a second look because of his personal narrative. I think there are a number of black voters that may give him the benefit of the doubt, deserved or undeserved. And so we got to keep our eye on that. I think adding Tim Scott to the ticket, may be the thing that causes people to give Donald Trump a second look in the Republican Party. I think Democrats are under no illusion in terms of, what's going on and how the president may use, if he's seeking to use Tim Scott to appear less racist or not racist to large swaths of the country.
You recall last time this conversation that we had that just wouldn't go away. about black men, some of them, too many of them, voting for Donald Trump. That's when he didn't have a black man on the ticket with him.
Mm-hmm.
So Donald Trump picks Tim Scott. I'm just making this up. Donald Trump picks Tim Scott. To your point, it refreshes his brand inside the Republican Party. Tim Scott, a lot more positive. Donald Trump, all negative, but still, at the moment, the presumptive nominee. Does Tim Scott's presence on the ticket siphon off a greater number of black votes?
It's possible, and I think it depends on what states we're talking about. And so
he is from South Carolina.
And so in a South Carolina, in a Georgia.
Remember Killer Mike in Georgia last year and all that? I mean, in 2020, all that conversation?
Right,
Yeah.
right. I mean, it may not give him, a blanket effect across the country, but I think in some states it may help enough. I mean, remember, there were, a little over 11,000 votes, according to the former president who was trying to get the Georgia election folks to fudge the numbers. There were, less than 12,000 votes that made the difference between, Joe Biden and winning Georgia and Donald Trump losing the state of Georgia. And so not just Georgia, but South Carolina, which is going to be an important state, that could be the margin of victory, right? And so, we've got to be attentive to that.
And we thought we had a show when Raphael Warnock was running against Herschel Walker. We thought that was a show.
Right.
Can you imagine Kamala Harris
running against Tim Scott?
And there'd be a vice presidential debate.
Yeah. I mean,
talk about history. Two black folk debating each other for vice president.
I mean, how often do we say that black folks are not a monolith, right?
Mhm.
Well, we're going to see that.
Yeah.
Or we could potentially see that on TV. And let me just add, these are two folks that when they were both in the U.S. Senate, they both worked on the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Now, you know that bill still continues to languish in the United States Senate. But think about what conversation that might reignite, having the two of them on a debate stage with that among so many other issues important to black folks front and center.
This is not hyperbole. As we mentioned earlier, Tim Scott is second right now in fundraising on the GOP side. The one gaining traction, positive message. He could be the running mate of Donald Trump, the presumptive Republican nominee, never mind indictment number 3 on the way. Nicola Laquarte, thank you for your time. Good to have you on, sir.
Good to be here, always.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
Glad you could join us, everyone. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network.